How are you doing at changing the world? At living a life that shines by the grace of Jesus Christ? These are the questions that we ought to be asking. I've been wrestling with these questions this week largely because of the news that was filling my news feed. My guess is you were grieving, much like I was grieving when we learned that Desmond Tutu passed. Desmond Tutu was a hero, considered by almost everybody to be one of the most prolific and influential leaders throughout all of history. He was a person who was born into poverty, and yet somehow, by the grace of God, rose to have one of the most highest and esteemed offices within the Anglican Church. He was a priest that was revered and respected for doing so many extraordinary and gracious works, reforming the church. He advocated for the role of women leading in the life of the Anglican Church. He advocated for the rights and the roles for the LGBTQ plus community. He was a harbinger of social justice. He was somebody that sought to push back against the darkened realities that prevailed in South Africa, specifically related to the apartheid regime. Desmond Tutu passed this past week, and as I was thinking about him, as I was reflecting over his life and his light, I was thinking, this is somebody who understood the power of Christmas. Here was somebody who committed his life to living it in such a way that he let the light of Christ shine through him everywhere it is that he went. And in so doing, he expanded his influence beyond the church, and he became a national leader. You see, most people respect him not for his role as being a priest in the Anglican Church in South Africa. Most people revere him for his role in pushing back, leading a nonviolent movement that eventually ended a decades-long regime of apartheid, injustice. He influenced a whole country by having the willingness to shine with the light of Christ, by following Jesus, by taking his command seriously to employ the power that he'd been given to the extent that he might change the world. Desmond Tutu's role in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission enabled an entire country to live into the power of forgiveness, to live into the power of grace so that they could find healing and have a pathway toward hope and heavenly peace as a nation. This is a picture of Desmond Tutu, and as people have been celebrating his life and remembering his witness and his legacy, I find this picture to be so important. Because when most people talk about him, they don't talk about all of the work, the hard work that he did to push back the prevailing darkness of injustice or to reform the church, to push it past these places of segregation or discrimination. Instead, when they speak about Desmond Tutu, they speak about his buoyancy. They speak about his joy, the way that he lived with great thanksgiving for every day that he had here on earth. If you ever met Desmond Tutu, and I had the privilege of doing so just once in my life, what you'd know about him is that you'd see his smile or you'd hear his laughter before you ever heard him speak a word. Because somehow he managed to live his life shining with the light, rejoicing everywhere, giving thanks to God for everything that he'd been given. And it was because of that grateful thanksgiving, that praise, that rejoicing, it allowed him to persevere, to press on. You see, something that happens when we encounter the light is that it causes us to have a thrill within our heart, to rejoice because of what we experienced. And then we're called to, with that great thanksgiving and rejoicing, to carry forward, doing the works that Jesus does, pushing back the darkness by shining with the light, employing the power, the superabundance of gifts that we've been given to the extent that we might change the world by simply doing the things that Jesus did, by loving one another the way that Jesus first loves us. We are called to be joyful, filled with great thanksgiving as we seek to respond to this light that we receive that is born in us at Christmas.
Thank you for watching this week's sermon. We'd love for you to join us again online or live in worship. To learn more about Church of the Resurrection, please visit core.org. Have a great week.